Welcome back. This is Charlie Pellerin doing YouTube slide narration set 5, the second part of our first diagnostic innate personality. I'm going to explore selecting a job that matches your innate strength. We're going to note that anything can work for you when you're best when you're 4D able, and I'll show you what that means. Use a little fable, the scorpion and the frog, to illustrate our tendency to do things that may or may not serve us well. Go into some detail using the AMBER system into the 4 personalities, and I've got some movie clips I'm going to talk about there. This is a really interesting inquiry. The percent of managers who are incompetent at their jobs and why. In our previous segment, the first part of the diagnostic on innate personality, which I'm not going to read, just there you can read it. And there it is. If you're a green personality, I think the things that are most natural for you are training, coaching, leading complex teams, if you're 4D able, and I'll explain that momentarily. I think, again, the other side, marketing jobs are natural for yellows. Is all about relationship. Leading large complex teams, again, the leaders of the biggest teams I know are successful, almost always greens and yellows. They're so good with people. Researchers in early phase projects, blue personalities, we love ideas, concepts. I've got a diagram of a satellite being designed from its early start there. And then the managers, managing especially late phase projects, again, when and if they're 4D able. So what's it mean? I want to introduce you to a convention here where we're going to draw personalities and cultures and things of this sort on these diagrams. And an arc like this means you're okay. The radius of an arc increases with performance. If you're better, the arc gets a little bigger. Once you think about the idea of a threshold below which performance is inadequate. And so let's assume you're a blue like me, and you're really interesting and good at coming up with ideas and visions and this sort of thing. People are not going to follow my vision and help me with it unless they feel adequately valued by me, so I work at that. They're not going to be willing to support me in my visions unless they feel included by me, and we talked about the importance of these 2 human needs, feel appreciated or valued and included. And they're not going to follow my vision unless they see me adequately organized and assuming accountability for my actions. This, of course, works with any of the 4 dimensions. I just picked my own because it's just easier, more fun for me to do, I guess. Here's an ineffective person, a big blue, overwhelms people with ideas and visions faster than anyone can do them. It's like being in a storm with them. People don't feel valued, or even worse, feel devalued. People don't feel included, they feel excluded. And what happens is when you live in this space where ideas are all you've got, you tend to be forceful in your decision, forcing them on people and changing them all the time, and so they see you as capricious. And a lot of people I know who live like this, I believe that a lot of folks would say they're even neurotic. So I want to talk about a little fable. A scorpion wants to cross a river, and scorpions can't swim. So he waits a while at the riverside, and along comes a frog, and he says, "Mr. Frog, how about if I hop on your back and you carry me across the river? I'd really appreciate it." And the frog says, "Well, why would I do that? I mean, my God, what if you had a sudden impulse to kill me, and we're in the middle of the river and you stung me and we both drowned?" And the scorpion said, "Well, that would be kind of stupid. Why would I do that?" So the frog says, "Jump on." They get halfway out in the water. The frog feels the scorpion's dig and says, "You killed us both. You killed us both. Why?" And the scorpion says, "Scorpions do what scorpions got to do." And I'm going to show you some innate personalities here and show you some of the things that we do innately, just like the scorpion, some of which may serve us well and some of those that may not. I want to introduce you now to the fundamental 4D process because we're going to see a demo of it momentarily in a speech by Gandhi. I used to chart presidents' speeches, and by the way, the State of the Union address is my favorite because it's about the money, and I think it's the most interesting speech they make of the year, maybe the most important. And I watch them. They understand. Somebody that works for a presidential speechwriter went to a 4D class someplace because they understand you can never go wrong starting off with authentic appreciation. And by the way, if you can't appreciate the person, you can always appreciate the situation. I remember President Bill Clinton, the first time I saw someone do this, he was addressing the Congress, and at that time Social Security was the big issue. And he was at war with the Republican Congress, and he said, you know, I want to say that I really appreciate the difficulty of the situation we're trying to work for both parties. And so that's how you can appreciate the situation. Because if you're angry, I don't think you can authentically appreciate the person. It never goes wrong. It's always great to include. You watch presidents do this whenever the speech is about handicap things. They'll have people in wheelchairs on the stage. If it's about the 911, they'll have firemen up there and so forth. So they're always wanting to be included in the group they're talking about. And there's a lubrication that's very popular in the U.S. called WD-40. And so I want you to think about when you're expressing authentic appreciation and when you're including others, you are lubricating the situation. So imagine an analogy with a stuck bolt on a motorcycle or a car or something, and you turn it with a wrench and you can't loosen it. Is it smarter to just turn the thing harder and harder with a bigger and bigger wrench? Or is it smarter to stop and spray some lubrication on it and then try and turn it? So in terms of human relations, appreciation and inclusion are the lubrication of relationships. So a typical speech by a competent presidential speechwriter will go through the first half just working on these two sides alone before they ever ask anyone to do anything. Then you can always put out a hopeful future, a vision, and then finally you can request or direct, which is the orange segment. Look at this. When dimensions are omitted, people under stress fill them with their most toxic emotions and their most pathological storylines. I want you to notice the importance of under stress. So this is about the fact that you need to always deal with all four dimensions. We're back to 4D able again. The green personalities, they bring their attentions to caring about people, and they're often very core value driven by deep spiritual values, religious values. Their mindset is loving life, helping others, people first. Their behavior, they support others, and what they want is good results without damaging people. As you'll see in this pattern, the diagonal is the hardest for them, and the reason is if the greens are if you go back to our coordinate system, if the greens are most interested in what's intuited and what's emotionally decided, they're least interested in what's sensed and what's logically decided. So their discipline is organization, and the greens that I know struggle with this, and interestingly enough, they'll often overdo it, go too far, just because they're so concerned about messing up with the organization part. I'm going to talk about a film clip from Gandhi. I used to show the film clips in here, but too many of these videos or my YouTubes got pulled off by networks complaining about them, so I think it's even better if I talk about them. You can Google on these clips, you can find them, you can buy the DVDs, and you can make your own, or if you see me in person, I'm glad to help you with this. You're going to see a very four-dimensional speech. You're going to see him talk to spiritual values. Of course, his whole thing is nonviolent resistance. You're going to see inclusion over and over. The people who work on the emotional side usually are very good on the emotional side. You're going to see an incredible vision we cannot lose. And you're going to see him finally give direction. We will not submit, we will not obey Smuts' law. And so before we go, just one more quote. Jerry Garcia, I think this is kind of fun because it's about the great hope and aspirations for people that the Greens have and their lack of organization. It's hard to get your thing together if your thing is paradise on earth. So by now in the regular workshop I would show the movie, but instead I'm going to talk you through it and see how this works. So Gandhi starts off this film with, "I welcome you all, every one of you. We have no secrets." Look at how including that is. That's his yellow statement. He continues, let us all begin by being clear about General Smut's new law. All Indians must now be fingerprinted like criminals, men and women. No marriage other than a Christian marriage is considered valid. Under this act, our wives and mothers are whores, and every man here is a bastard. Then in the film clip, Nehru says to someone, he's becoming quite good at this. Gandhi continues, and a policeman passing an Indian dwelling, I will not call them homes, may enter and demand the card of any one Indian woman whose dwelling it is. Understand, he does not have to stand at the door. He may enter. Then a man speaks up, and I color code this in red because it's just a fighting talk. I'll kill the man who offers that insult to my home and my wife and let them hang me. Another man says, I say talk means nothing. Kill a few officials before they disgrace one Indian woman. Then they might think twice about such laws. Another man shouts, in that cause I'd be willing to die. And now watch Gandhi play his green card. Appreciation. I praise such courage. I need such courage because in this cause I too am prepared to die. But my friends, there is no cause for which I am prepared to kill. Whatever they do to us, we will attack no one, kill no one. But we will not give our fingerprints, not one of us. They will imprison us, they will fine us, they will seize our possessions, but they cannot take away our self-respect if we do not give it to him. And then a man in the balcony yells down, have you been to prison? They beat us and torture us. I say, Gandhi says back in the green again, I am asking you to fight against their anger, not provoke it. We will not strike a blow, but we will receive them, and through our pain we'll make them see their injustice, and it will hurt, as all fighting hurts. Now this is an important statement for me because blues go into conflict too easily, and I've had several cases where I had a case where something was being done to me that was improper, and boy, I was ready to go file a lawsuit, and I thought about all fighting hurts, and I said, I don't want the pain of a lawsuit. I can't take it. This is very powerful for me. And so then he puts out this incredible blue vision. I want you to notice so far it's all been yellow and green. But we cannot lose. We cannot. They may torture my body, break my bones, even kill me. Then they will have my dead body, not my obedience. Now he goes into an inclusion statement, yellow. We are Hindu and Muslim, children of God, each one of us. Now comes his first orange statement. Let us take a solemn oath in his name that come what may, we will not submit to this law. Now, there's silence in the room. It's a giant room filled with people. And then he's waiting and looking, and finally an old man stands up. Then a young boy stands. Then everyone stands. Then they all start clapping. This is fascinating to me because this is how leadership actually works. We all think of the team leader or the organizational leader as the person who's going to fix everything. But so Gandhi made a great speech, no doubt about it. But in the end, it would have been worth nothing if the old man hadn't stood up. So I'd say to teams, after I show this, if they're in trouble, I say, are you willing to stand up? Or are you going to sit there and wait for the team leader to make things all good for you? It's interesting, powerful stuff. Then he does this yellow piece to close it off. It's fantastic. Everyone's standing, and they got the 4 British soldiers sitting there watching all this. Then Gandhi starts singing, and they all join in. God save our gracious King. Long live our noble King. God save our King. And the British soldiers look at each other, then they stand up. It's really beautifully humorous ending to this whole thing. A powerful clip, and I think if you can't find it and want to use it, you can narrate it like I did, and hope you can find it and use it. Okay, the yellows. Attentions to relationships. The mindset is all about teamwork. They believe teamwork will bring success. Behavior is team building all the time. The result they want is success together. Their diagonal challenge is acting on difficult personnel issues. People like this that I know, I go talk to them as a consultant. So-and-so is destroying your organization. You've got to fire her. And they just can't do it. They just don't do it. They continue on how they are and put it off and put it off and put it off. They're so busy being alike, this is very hard for them. And then they have a very difficult time tolerating the aggressive communication style of 1D blues. So I looked for clips for years of an including leader, and I couldn't find any. Now, why would it be hard? These are people who don't stand out. They don't have movies made about themselves. They don't talk about themselves because in their mind it's all about others. I'm going to show you, walk you through an Eisenhower clip. And by the way, I was in that same house that I told you about before that I bought in Boulder. And the house had a nice setup for a bachelor. It had a kitchen stove on a countertop, and you could look through this hole in the thing, and you could see the television. So one night I'm watching television, and I'm watching the Hitler channel. I mean the History Channel. I do it all the time. And someone said the reason Eisenhower was Supreme Allied Commander is he was so likable. And I thought, can it be? So I went and got the movie clip I'm going to describe for you in a moment. And sure enough, I think about when he ran for president of the U.S., most of you might not know this, but his slogan for election was, "I like Ike." Normally this time I'd show the film. I'm going to talk you through it instead. Then Eisenhower, this quote, which I think is amazing. I couldn't imagine saying or thinking this. "Some of my friends are for it. Some of my friends are against it. I am for my friends." Dwight Eisenhower. Okay, so I'm watching this clip and I'm thinking I'm going to have to watch this for a very long time to find what I want. And I've just settled in to be bored for quite a bit. And look at this. He opens with this big yellow statement. This is unbelievable inclusion. "Every person, whether he is at the plow in the field or with gun to front, that fails to do his full duty every day, every hour, must forever bear on his own conscience the certainty that he's contributed in some incalculable amount, be it little or be it great, to the agony and anguish and sacrifice that our two countries must endure. But upon your shoulders rests the greatest responsibility of all. You young men have this war to win." Boy, I see I could have colored that yellow too if I wanted. Look at this. "It is up to you men to give your unit, whether it's a tank, crew, a platoon, or becomes a company, leadership every hour of the day, every day of the week." Leadership. And what's leadership look like to Eisenhower? "You must know every single one of your men." Inclusion. Look at this orange. "It is not enough that you are the best soldier in that unit, that you are the strongest, the toughest, the most durable, the best equipped technically." Back to yellow. "You must be their leader, their father, their mentor, even if you're half their age. You must understand their problems. You must keep them out of trouble. If they get in trouble, you must be the one that goes to their rescue. That cultivation of human understanding between you and your men is the one art that you must master." And then he commands them, and you must master it quickly. Then you'll be doing your duty and be worthy of the traditions of this great school and of your great country. Wow, how yellow can you get? To each one of you, I wish Godspeed and good luck. Okay, on to the blues. Attention, great ideas. Mindset, ideas trump people, especially relationship with ideas trumps relationships with people. Behavior, we're all in there fighting to give the best idea. Result, the path to success is innovation. Our diagonal is interpersonal relationships and teaming, because it's so much easier for blues to relate with ideas than with people. So this is a Howard Hughes video clip that's really sort of a caricature. It's not very flattering of a blue, but I think it's excellent in that it shows you really what overdone blue looks like. And here's a overdone blue Steve Jobs of Apple, a computer for the rest of us. So here's the Howard Hughes film clip. He starts talking off, and it can clean itself right in the hole. He's describing this drill bit that made him wealthy first, and his friend Noah said, "Good idea." That's not good enough for a blue. I think it's a brilliant idea, and it's a vast improvement over Howard Sr.'s best too. I think it's fair to say Howard Sr. was a very smart man. The competitiveness of blues, he even wants to compete with his father, Noah. Yes, indeed. And he was the best in his field, Noah, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the best at whatever I do. And then one of these days, they're going to wake up and discover that Howard Hughes is the richest man in the whole wide world. The big vision, the big blue vision. They're riding in an airplane, And he says, did you bring the material, Crookshank? Which one is it? And Crookshank says, this is the one where the hero's at the end and he's sort of in a confused state, you know. And Hughes says, oh, you've got your ending all wrong, Crookshank. Now, Crookshank gives him this double take look, and the reason is this movie has not been coming out for months and months and months because Howard Hughes keeps changing the ending. And he talks about losing his job, blah, blah, blah. Then he says, Hughes says, hell, that shows he's got no brains, got no guts. It's bad enough when the novel ends that way, even worse for a motion picture, Crookshank. We're going to have to change that ending. And Crookshank, again, gives him this double take, like, huh? Yes, sir. Then he goes on, look at this. It is a most peculiar world, Crookshank. Now that is, most people are supposed to take an interest in their fellow man, but for some reason, however, I just don't seem to be interested in my fellow man as I am in other things. What other things? Well, I guess you'd have to say those things that are all around us, the earth and what the earth is made of, the sky and the universe beyond. I have more real interest, you see, Crookshank, in why we get from winter to summer than I'm ever going to have in understanding my next door neighbor. I'll tell you the truth, Crookshank. Most people just bore me. I don't want to get involved with them. Wow, the big 1D blue. Another scene. Noah, how long are you going to be there? I don't know. I've got some preparations to make, Noah. Preparations for what? Going around the world. Well, Noah, well, I'm not surprised. It's the best thing you could do now is get away from everything, sit back on the deck of an ocean liner and let the world go by. Good idea. No, Noah, no. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to fly. Fly. Now, you correct me if I'm wrong, Howard, but as I recall, Wiley Post is the only man that ever, you're not going to do that. You're not going to try and break his record. The big vision, the big reach, typical blue stuff. Okay, the oranges. Attention to process, mindset, plan to work, work to plan, behaviors about consistency and completion, results, efficiency, certainty of result, control. The challenge is seeing across the diagonal and seeing people as people with human needs and not just part of your processes. So I'm going to show you a segment from an American high school basketball game. And so I'm not going to explain the 4D analysis of this because I would normally talk about before I show the film clip. Since I'm going to skip the film clip and not show you and go on and describe it, I'm just going to move ahead to a funny quote about an orange perspective. A team leader is a lot of people doing what I say. That's good. So this coach, the movie clip that I have starts off with this coach shouting in the locker room. Remember what we worked on in practice? I'm going to see it on the court. How many times we're going to pass before we shoot? And the players, 4. How many? 4. The coach yells, 4. They come on the basketball court, and his team's got the ball, and they're coming down the court, and he's yelling, set it up, set it up. Ray, this great shooting star, makes a very long shot, bags it in. The crowd cheers. Everybody's happy, and Coach Dale's visibly angry. They bring the ball down the court a second time. He's shouting, Ray, pass the ball. Ray ignores him, makes another long shot. The crowd cheers. Coach Dale is even angrier yet. Next thing he does is he takes Ray out of the game, benches him, and sends in this young guy that obviously is no competitor, someone named Holly, a young, immature-looking guy. He goes in for the superstar, and the crowd's all looking like, what are you doing? So a few minutes later, a player fouls out and leaves the court. Now, basketball once you get 5 fouls, you're out of the game, and basketball teams play with 5 people on the court. So when this guy leaves, Ray jumps up, runs onto the court, holds up his number for the referee to see, and the coach says, where are you going? And Ray says, in the game. And the coach says, sit down. And Ray says, what do you mean? We've got to have 5 out there. The coach yells at him, sit down, sit. The referee comes over and says, Coach, you need one more player on the floor. The coach shakes his finger at the referee and says, my team's on the floor. And the mayor turns to him and says, what are you trying to do? So when the clip ends, I ask the workshop participants, what are you trying to do? The answer is he's trying to establish control. Now, this is interesting. It turns out this works out for him. He changes a bit. The players change a bit. But I don't think the methods that work with high school students would work with any of you. Okay. Now, I mentioned at the start of the last segment an effort to try and find common themes among what's written in leadership or business books. And it didn't work, but the reason is there's no commonality because each author tends to write that the answer is in his own innate personality. Stephen Covey, who's a deacon in the Church of Latter-day Saints, writes about values for the church, and then he writes books about principle-centered leadership, and his other book is about character, church religious values. This very well-known book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, he starts off with a sentence that says, teamwork is all that matters, nothing else matters, that's it, nothing else matters. In Search of Excellence, Tom Peters, all that matters is being the best. Then this book, Leadership Secrets of Attila Hun. Now, what's important about this slide for you? What I want you to see is that everything else you read, I think, and I didn't have to look hard for these are all very, very popular books. Everything else you read is going to tend to reflect one dimension only. You know, and these people don't, that success requires being able to do all four, to be 4D able. It's not about any one. Okay, this is one of my favorite slides. When I was at University of Colorado, a professor brought me a paper written by industrial psychologists that talked about the base rate of managerial incompetence. What they're talking about is the percent of managers that are believed to be incompetent by industrial psychologists when they enter a typical American business to work in there. And I want to know, for you guys, what percent of managers do you think are incompetent in your experience? And I'm always amazed at what people say. The numbers I get from workshop groups are typically 50%, 70%, 60%, 80%. And I say, well, that's amazing to me because managers have all the power and American businesses are thought to be pretty well run. So how can this be? I'll show you what the number is for the industrial psychologist. It's very close to yours. It's 70%. Then sort of as a joke, I say, you know, I found a PhD thesis on an aerospace company and we're much better. In aerospace industry, in that particular company, only half the managers are incompetent. Kind of a joke. So what does this mean? What is managing? So most people who talk about leadership say managing is a bad thing. You must transcend to become a leader. When I do workshops and other people have been in there in front of me talking about management, usually there's a chart on the wall someplace. Actually, it comes from a 150-year-old study of mining in French mines with horses. But managing is about plan, organize, direct, and control. This is the directing dimension, and I'm very happy to say that in the 4D system, this is an essential element of leadership. I'll tell you, in most businesses and other organizations, if you can't do this, you're in real trouble. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. And what do people say when I asked these consultants, when they named managers incompetent, what were they talking about? They said, I don't feel my management values my contributions. What's that mean? If you want to join the 70% who are competent, you need to master authentic appreciation and addressing shared interests, these two behaviors in the green dimension. I hear people say, I don't feel included, I don't trust my management. So if you want to be in the competent 30%, you're going to have to learn to appropriately include and build trustworthiness by keeping all your agreements. I hear my management denies reality and has no vision. This means you're going to have to embrace reality and become 100% committed, especially unpleasant realities. My management blames, complains, and ignores accountability. Means you're going to have now no drama in your team, and accountability and authority have to be defined. What's your takeaway from this? I hope your takeaway is that to be a competent manager, we're not looking to be well-rounded. We're looking to lead with your strength and have the other three dimensions all above threshold values. If you can do that, you'll join the 30%. Now I'd like to show a film clip. I didn't narrate this one. It's a powerful one from Gene Kranz, but it's not essential to a minimalist workshop. If you can find it, it's great. It's from the History Channel. It's about accountability. Now I have you go to your workbook and do this exercise, and you can read this yourself. We then have people discuss there's a process here. Over and over, we have people do the work themselves in private. This is the reflective part. Then they discuss the work with a partner. We always have people work in pairs or dyads. And the reason is that if we have more than two people, it takes a lot longer for someone to be able to speak. A four-person group, you can go a very long time, especially with a very vocal person or two, before everybody gets a chance to talk. So they talk with their partner, and then we get out briefs. And there are 2 or 3 methods for this, and I'll talk about these later in a shorter segment. I give people as homework assignment. There's an extra piece of an extra inquiry that's not filled out. Go home tonight and do the personality inquiry with your spouse if you're married, or a friend. And I think if you can explain this to them, it's pretty straightforward. What I've talked to you about today, it'll reinforce your learning, and you'll get a great insight into your relationship. Upcoming slides are culture, where we find them, diagramming them, the most common culture in American business, the orange culture and the data dog, how healthy organizations protect the subcultures, don't make them all like them. I'll give you 2 examples of competitions for big programs that would have been lost without this work. And this is the work we just completed last time in segment 5. So here we go. Done for this segment, and thank you very much. And I'll see you soon in segment 6. Have a great day wherever you are. So long.